Hello everyone, Gregory here reporting for The View from Out Here. This just in. Protests against the brutally authoritarian tactics of ICE were taking place in Los Angeles yesterday and again today. Things did escalate into violence, and it is unclear who was doing the escalating. I think we know, but that hasn't been proven yet. In response, Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth are ordering the National Guard into the streets of Los Angeles to quell what Stephen Miller is calling an insurrection. Miller, of course, is blowing what is actually happening completely out of proportion, and he's doing it for a reason. Okay, two reasons. One reason is because I have no doubt from watching him on TV that he gets an erection at the very thought of being allowed to brutally dominate people by force. He's very much like Donald Trump in that regard. Governor Gavin Newsom fired back that the National Guard isn't necessary because the situation is under control. You see, Gavin Newsom believes in the constitutional right of the people to protest against the government for a redress of grievance. It is a sophisticated balance that needs to be maintained between the need to maintain order and the people's right to protest. The good governor understands that, and Donald Trump clearly does not. Funny how the MAGA Republican Party is all for states' rights unless it's a blue state, particularly a powerful blue state like California, who voted for Kamala Harris. I assure you that Donald Trump has not forgotten that fact. You'll remember that Trump pulled a failed power play on California earlier this year over water for the wildfires that destroyed big chunks of Los Angeles. He bustled his way into a situation that he didn't understand, and in the process messed up things for farmers in Northern California for the summer that will contribute to rising agricultural prices this year because of drought conditions that Donald Trump himself caused. But the other reason Miller is calling the protests an insurrection is because of what he knows it legally allows the president to do. If the president can make a big enough chunk of the country believe that these protests against ICE are insurrections against him as the president, he can legally order the United States military into the streets of the United States and use them against American citizens. Donald Trump would like nothing more than to institute complete and total control of the United States, much like his mentors Vladimir Putin, Viktor Orban, and Xi Jinping. He wants to rule the United States with an iron fist to prove to them that he's tough enough to be a real dictator just like them. That was made clear on his first day in office. See for yourself.
The second item, President Trump, is a regulatory freeze, as you announced in your speech, preventing bureaucrats from issuing any more regulations until we have full control of this, the government and this administration. Thank you, sir.
Sir, can I have a pen?
The next item, sir, is a freeze on all federal hiring, excepting the military and a number of other excluded categories, again, until full control of the government is achieved and we understand the objectives of government going.
That until we have complete control business was shocking to me when I first saw it. It still is, in fact. It felt kind of like a gang of vultures anxiously swarming over a dying animal in the desert or something. We're in charge now, they strutted. There's a new sheriff in town and things are going to be different. But beyond that, I am concerned that there will be more opportunities this summer for this convicted felon president to institute martial law. I'm speaking of the No King's Day of Defiance planned for June 14th that I told you about in my last two episodes. At present, over 1,500 such protests are scheduled across the country on June 14th to protest Donald Trump's use of the military to glorify his birthday. It's a fully transparent attempt to impress his more seasoned authoritarian mentors across the globe and flex his control of the United States as a display of his imagined power. He wants them to consider him an equal so badly that he can taste it. But let me get back to my original point. Illegal immigration. Donald Trump built his campaign for president on the faulty premise that every one of the millions of immigrants coming into the United States across the southern border is a rapist, a murderer, a child trafficker, a criminal, a mental patient, a drug dealer, or a gang member. He said, it's a simple fix. Vote for me, and I'll just get rid of them for you. And therein lies their problem. They were all very careful about how they worded their accusations about these people coming across the border. They didn't say many of the people coming across the border or some of the people coming across the border. They repeatedly said they're emptying their prisons into the United States. They're emptying their mental institutions at our southern border. They're eating the pets of the people who live there. They're responsible for all this fentanyl that is killing your friends and family. They were carefully wording their accusations for the better part of 2024 to lead a normal, functioning adult to believe that all of the immigrants coming across our southern border are at least one of the things on that list. Which leads us to the next problem. The only ones that I know who are tracking criminal activity by immigrants is Texas. Certainly no mecca of lunatic radical leftists. And their findings were that immigrants are far less likely to commit a crime in the United States than natural-born citizens. So now Stephen Miller, who is the White House go-to guy on immigration, is ordering ICE to arrest a minimum of 3,000 such criminals per day for the rest of the year. ICE is now under pressure to round up all of these supposed criminals and put them on a plane to El Salvador or South Sudan in the middle of the night before anyone can catch them violating the Constitution in the process. Both prisons, by the way, were chosen for the inhumane conditions that are acceptable there and the level of disrespect for the rule of law in that country. It's not even that Stephen Miller wants people of color in prison for life, but it has to be the most brutal and inhumane prison. You know, the cruelty thing and the boner and all. We don't have very many of those kind of prisons here in the United States. They had to do some research to find them elsewhere where torture might be legal. Donald Trump is buying prison cells for illegal immigrants and anyone else who gets caught in that net. And here's our next snag. They can't find those millions of criminals, so they have to do something to meet those orders. So they're hanging out at courthouses and job sites all across the country and arresting random Hispanics and spiriting them away to another state to isolate them from friends and family or any legal support they might have been aware of at home. That's how Abrego Garcia ended up on a plane to El Salvador. Attorney General Pam Bondi, who may be in danger of losing her license to practice law in Florida as I speak, was on TV earlier yesterday starting to roll out the phony case against Garcia. Evidently, he's not being accused of being a member of MS-13. I'll bet Donald Trump isn't too happy about that. But no, they're going to try to pin human trafficking on him because he was stopped in Tennessee during Trump's first failed presidency while driving his co-workers to a job site in his boss's van. He was just stopped. He wasn't arrested then. Evidently, he wasn't arrested until he was in the legal process of gaining asylum status. ICE has known where he is for the whole time he's been in the process. Reporting his whereabouts is required of him as part of his asylum request. But Pam Bondi is under a tremendous amount of pressure to deliver a guilty verdict on something to justify deporting him again, which they fully intend to do, because otherwise Donald Trump is going to look like the raving lunatic that he turns out to be. Donald Trump, as you know, actually believes that Abrego Garcia has MS-13 tattooed across his knuckles. He even got in a fight with ABC's Terry Moran about it. He's absolutely convinced, and he can show you the picture to prove it. Just ask. That interview was absolutely shocking. The president is clearly suffering from dementia. But at the end of the day, unidentified masked people in fatigues or all black clothing are literally snatching up random Hispanics on the streets, at work, and at their homes by force without warrants and spiriting them away somewhere. All of that is the reason why people in Los Angeles were protesting yesterday and are protesting today, and why those protests will continue as long as this criminal administration continues to disrespect and desecrate the Constitution of the United States. It's also why so many of us will join together on June 14th for the No King's Day of Defiance. Like it has been said many times, the cruelty in this situation is not a bug in the system, it's a feature. And to borrow a phrase, winter is coming, my people. Winter is coming. Like and subscribe and check out this description box below for more info. Meanwhile, my name is Gregory, and this has been The View from Out Here. Much love.